Have you ever thought to yourself, man, I wish my Xbox Series S had a little brother he could take to work? In this video, we're going to be unboxing and testing the read and write speeds of an external SSD or solid state drive. It looks like a little Xbox Series S. Let's get this thing. So on the unboxing table today, we have a 1TB SSD or solid state drive. It is an external and it is from a company called Phixero. It's a little emblem on the top saying that it has a limited 3-year warranty. One of the things we cover quite extensively on product reviews here at Gamer Heaven is going to be manufacturer warranties. Now 3 years is pretty good for some type of external storage. However, it does say it's limited, but I'm assuming that's going to include manufacturer defects, this arriving dead on arrival, or just ceasing normal operation within 3 years time. You're not swinging it around overhead like a lasso, taking your friend's kneecaps out. You should be totally fine. Also has a little icon of a gauge pinned out with a 10. Is that 10 megabytes a second? Is that 10 gigabytes a second? Now what's labeled on this product, this SSD, is Big G little b, which is gigabit, as opposed to Big G big B, which is gigabyte. And this might confuse some people that are like, well, this is getting 10 gigabytes per second. Those speeds aren't even happening with the fastest NVMEs on the market currently. 1 gigabyte is technically 1 billion bytes of data being transferred, which equates to around 1,000 megabytes. The fastest drives on the market are M.2 NVMe SSDs Gen 4, which plug directly into your motherboard and will get you around 7,000 megabytes or 7 gigabytes per second on the read speed, and around 6,000 megabytes or 6 gigabytes a second of write speed. Gen 5 has been announced and will be coming in the near future, giving speeds as fast as 13,000 megabytes a second or 13 gigs per second on the read speed, and 12 gigabytes a second on the write speed. The fastest external drives on the market that is not plugged in directly to your motherboard like a PCIe M.2 are going to get you around 10,050 megabytes per second, and those are external SSDs or solid state drives, much like the product we're testing here today. Even this realm is respectable performance, 540 megabytes per second or half a gig per second, connected to a USB 3.1 port. Relatively basic packaging. It does have an outer sleeve which slides down, and my god, this thing is tiny. I wish I had never heard that before. Now you do have what appears to be a warranty activation card, however it has nothing but Chinese characters on it, so this does no good for anybody that doesn't have Google Translate on their phone. But I'm assuming if you can produce some kind of a receipt that you purchased this thing on Amazon or whatever vendor you went through, that they will honor their 3-year limited warranty. This card is entirely in Spanish. Granted, I've been brushing up on my Rosetta Stone, but this is going to go ahead and go in the rubbish container. There we go. English. Now this does indicate that they have different models with different transfer speeds, a 5G, 10G, 20G, and 40G model. So this is the 10G model. You can't necessarily go off manufacturer specifications. It's always good to measure the performance of your electronic devices in-house. Not that these companies are necessarily lying or trying to be deceptive purposely, however, here's the thing. Generally, their testing methods are in the best possible use case scenario, and it's good to see real-world performance, not to mention there's what's called the silicon lottery, meaning that two identical devices, you and your buddy got the same phone or the same graphics card. You'll find out a lot of times through benchmarking that you might be slightly off by up to 5% plus or minus, and that is simply because not all silicon is created identically. Not all PCBs or printed circuit boards are going to perform the same from model to model, and not just model to model, but like specific units of each model. So it could be the identical product and it might fluctuate a little bit. That's why I like to test my own devices, and that's what we're going to do here today. Now, I've got to say, I absolutely love the design of this. It looks like a small Xbox Series S. I am going to put this next to my Series S for a little bit of B-roll so you guys can see exactly the size difference. This thing is incredibly tiny, very lightweight. Plastics do feel relatively cheap and chintzy, but that's really nothing out of the ordinary for something like an SSD. It has no rubberized feet on it whatsoever, so it's just going to be flip sliding around your desk. It does have a USB-C port for connectivity, and this exhaust vent over here is completely sealed off, so it is not a functional exhaust port connected to some kind of thermal paste and metal heatsink on the actual chipset to cool this thing during those fast read and write sessions. This is just cosmetic to add to that appearance or look of an Xbox Series S. Now, one thing that I am not a fan of is all the branding up here. You have their brand Phixero, then down here SSD solid state drive. If they could move that to the back and keep this front section completely clean and clear to make it look identical to a Series S, that would be awesome. You do have a couple of perforated exhaust ports or holes for cooling. As for the included cable, this is very high quality. It is relatively short at 6 inches, however it is braided. It does have dust covers on the USB-A and USB-C side, and it does have a built-in adapter, so if you want to go USB-C to USB-C, which most likely will get you the fastest read and write times, but we are going to test it with the USB-C-A adapter and see if that makes any difference to the speeds. So plugging this into one of my USB 3.1 ports in the front of my tower, just get you sitting right there so you're not just dangling. Not that it's going to cause you any damage because it is very lightweight. You could just have it hanging in midair like that, but I'd like to provide a little support to not damage my USB-C ports up here. Over here at the PC, one of the things I want to mention, because I know a lot of people unfortunately don't read instruction manuals, is you do want to make sure when you plug this in that the adapter has the arrow and the rating badge of the speed. So in this case, there's a little triangle or arrow with 10 gigabytes per second.
That's gigabit, not gigabyte, Kevin.
That those are on the same side, because if they're not, it actually substantially limits the read and write speed. So luckily, if you just don't touch it, period, you don't remove that adapter, it does come pre-installed the right direction or orientation. Sharing my screen over here, I'm going to live in a little circle in the corner, and we're going to test the read and write speeds of this drive. So this is Crystal Disk Mark. This is a benchmark to get the read and write speeds of an external, internal, SSD, NVMe, mechanical hard drive, basically any kind of storage device. So as you can see, the 4 storage devices of my PC, and then the external, which I have right-clicked and renamed as Phixero 1 terabyte. That is the G drive. Want to make sure we're testing the correct drive here. And unfortunately, you cannot full screen this application, and you can't even grab the corners and make it any larger, so you're going to be staring at this small box here. And we're going to change this rating to gigabytes per second, and then we're going to click all to run all of these tests. Now, I would recommend minimizing the amount of times you run these benchmarks, because it can degrade the overall performance of your drive over time if you're running these benchmarks every day just for the heck of it. And this number in the dropdown is not the storage size of the drive, however, it is the test that is going to be run. 1 gigabyte of data is going to be transferred. There we go, engage that dark theme. What else they got? Ooh, that's cute. All right, and click all on that G drive that is indicating 932 gigabytes of free space. So some pretty poor results our first run. Now this is using that USB-A adapter. However, the triangle is aligned with the rating badge, which is what the instruction manual specifies to do. We're only getting about 0.5 or half of a gigabyte per second on the read and write. And now I've swapped the adapter to where the triangle is on this side and the rating badge is on this side. The manufacturer's instruction manual specifies to have them aligned like that. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's flip it around like that. Give her the old Husker Du, how do you do? Run another test. We are also going to test it with just the USB-C and not using the USB-A adapter, and using a different benchmark program. Had my C drive selected for a second, but that's not what we're testing. That's where my operating system and applications go. Run it. And in case you're wondering specifically what each of these tests do, if you hover over them, this is 1 megabytes of sequential on 8 queues in 1 thread. This is a random 4 kilobytes, so it shoots little bursts of data to test different situations or scenarios where you'd be reading and writing data. And the other benchmark program that we're going to use to test actually shows a little bit more data, such as access time, how long it takes your PC to access the data on the drive. Okay, let's go. It will give you the status of what's going on up here. Right now it's creating a test file. Then you will see it run 5 passes for each of these tests. So their instruction manual was onto something. We're getting even lower speeds now. We're getting about 44 megabytes per second, which isn't even SSD speeds. That's more like mechanical hard drive speeds. Let's go ahead and plug this in directly via USB-C. So much better results plugged in via USB-C cable. We're getting about 1 gigabyte per second read, and also about 1 gig a second of write speed. Now I'm going to run a third and final test plugged into the USB-C port in the back of my motherboard directly off of the I/O, which should give me the absolute fastest read and write speeds possible on my PC. So about identical results. We're getting 1006 megabytes on the read and 971 megabytes per second on the write speed. And that is connected to a USB 3.2 Gen 2 by 2 port, which is literally the fastest USB port on the market currently. Now we're going to run AS SSD benchmark, which gives you a lot more data and in my opinion is a better program. As you can see, it identifies all my drives, exactly what make and model they are. This is a Viper VP4300 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. There's a Sabrent Rocket NVMe. There's a Samsung SSD NVMe. Here's a MX500, which is a 4 terabyte SSD or solid state drive. These are the actual storage drives of my computer. Down here, this is the external. Gives you the exact capacity of free space. And this is going to run a 4K transfer, a 4K 64 thread transfer. It's going to give you the access time, which is how quickly your PC can access the storage on the drive. Run it and gun it. So using the USB-A adapter plugged into one of the USB 3 ports on the front of my tower, we are getting 426 megabytes on the read speed and 424 on the write. Now let's flip that adapter the wrong way. Yep, they're definitely onto something by having that adapter plugged the right direction, which is weird because it's USB-C, which means you can plug it either way, but it does have a substantial difference in performance. So just make sure that that little arrow or triangle is aligned with the rating on the other side of the adapter. Let's run a third and final test plugged into a USB-C port. So the fastest consistent different speeds that you can look for with this external SSD is going to be 913 megabytes per second on the read speed and 895 megabytes per second on the write speed. The fastest portable drives, meaning they plug in externally, are around 1000.5 megabytes per second on the read speed and around 900 or so on the write. So this is very close in line with a flagship or the highest speeds that you can get from a portable SSD. So what is my verdict? Is this product a good buy? Well, at $150 for the 1 terabyte model that we tested here today, rated at speeds for 1050 megabytes per second. So most likely you will be able to find competitors with similar read and write speeds for slightly cheaper. However, I will say, I will give them credit where credit's due. The design is pretty damn good. It is tiny and it looks just like an Xbox Series S, which is pretty sick. If you have a Series S, you put it right next to it. Looks like it's bring your little brother to work day. Also, something to take note of, there is no USB-C ports on an Xbox Series S or X. And if you are going to use one of these drives on one of those consoles, the Series Brothers, I recommend using one of the USB ports in the back of the console, not only to keep your setup looking clean by having your external hard drive ran through the back, but also because you're getting faster transfer speeds out of those ports. Now, what are you going to be able to practically use this for on an Xbox console? Well, with an Xbox One, you'll be able to use it to store any of your games. On an Xbox Series S or X, you can store Xbox One games, 360 games, but any games that are optimized for S and X, so it'll have a little S/X logo on the thumbnail icon of the game, you simply won't be able to launch games from that location. You can store them there, and then it'll prompt you when you go to launch that game, hey, can you transfer this over to the internal storage, please? It's a failsafe in place by Microsoft to make sure that games don't crash because they're getting inconsistent read and write speeds. Not that I'm saying you'll get that with this external SSD, but Microsoft doesn't let you launch S and X games from an external, but you can store your entire Xbox One library, or you can save it as a media capture directory, so all of your clips that you save of your gameplay, which can be rather large files if you're recording 2 hours of gameplay at 1440p. So this would be great for that. If you're somebody that likes to do emulation on your Series S or X through developer mode, you could store the entire library of N64, Dreamcast, NES, SNES, Sega Genesis, etc. on this external. So I think it has a practical use for being used with an Xbox Series console. They also have a model that is rated for 2060 megabytes per second that is only available in the 512 gigabyte capacity. It is slightly thicker and does look like it has an actual exhaust port on the top, so most likely a metal heatsink, and then that blows out of this port right here. Whether that's force fed through a fan or it just has an open port right there, I'm not sure yet. This external is linked in the description below if you want to check it out. I think it does look really slick, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace. If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers. This information will reach and assist them as well, which in turn helps me grow this little channel, which I do greatly appreciate. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover news in the gaming community and industry, tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing, as well as honest gaming product reviews, keyboards, mice, headsets, controllers, mics, chairs, etc. There are some hefty exclusive discount codes found only in the description of my videos and only for the audience here at Gamer Heaven. Check out Into the AM for some of the sickest looking and most comfortable cloth to ever grace my gaming giblets. If you don't want to be scorching your corneas with harmful blue light, check out Gamer Advantage, the only blue light glasses on the market that look sexy and actually work. If you're looking for a custom controller that'll blow the competition's tits back, AIM definitively has the best bang for buck or price to performance when it comes to Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch controllers. Nope, they don't do Switch, but they do gaming mice. I said doo-doo. I have links to all my other platforms and socials in the description below. If you need a quick laugh or blast of gamer adrenaline, check my short form videos out at TikTok. To get in touch with myself and the Stallions and Stallionettes of Gamer Heaven, join the community Discord, and check me out at twitch.tv where I go live every other leap year on a blue moon if it falls into an odd calendar number, and my pH balance is on point. Just kidding, starting June I'm going to be live streaming a lot. Thanks for watching. This has been AK40 Kevin hosting Gamer Heaven, and I'll see you tomorrow because I upload daily, all the time, 60% of the time, sometimes, most of the time. Peace.